The Hoosier State line will make its final trip from Indianapolis to Chicago Sunday. The governor eliminated $3 million in annual funding for the route in the two-year state budget that starts July 1st. Now, reporter Barbara Brozier is following the story. And Barbara, what does this mean for Hoosiers?
Well, they can still take another Amtrak route called the Cardinal Line from Indianapolis to Chicago, but the train originates in New York and only runs 3 days a week. Riders say that doesn't meet the demand for a train back and forth to Chicago. Others argue the numbers speak for themselves.
We are standing here in Indianapolis Union Station, the very first Union Station in our country.
Indianapolis's Union Station opened in 1853, the first of its kind in the country. Its central location made it a natural hub for travel. At one point, more than 150 trains arrived and departed from the station daily. While the building may look similar from the outside today, the train travel it was built to support is drastically different.
Here we are, crossroads of America, right in the middle of everything, and we really need to pick it up a notch in order to be competitive.
Starting in July, only one passenger rail line will make the trip from Indianapolis to Chicago because of the state ending its support of Amtrak's Hoosier State line.
It's kind of crappy because the train is needed for transportation, especially people that don't have cars, and need to get from state to state like in a quick 3-4 hours.
To me, it was a great disappointment, really. The state of Indiana should have intercity train travel. For that to work, it needs to be higher frequency. It needs to be a priority for the state, a priority for Amtrak.
Have your ticket ready when you get a seat.
But the Hoosier State lines faced problems for years. Amtrak data shows ridership is down by about 25% since Congress pulled federal funding for regional trains, and the state started subsidizing the service in 2013. In 2015, Indiana entered into an agreement with Iowa Pacific to provide train equipment and maintenance, while Amtrak would operate the route. The deal meant more amenities for riders, including a glass Superdome and a dining car. While ticket sales increased during the first year under the agreement, the number of riders still dropped. And the partnership ended in early 2017 because of a contract stipulation that meant Iowa Pacific got less money each time its on-time performance improved. Now the line is back under Amtrak's control.
Coach is up and to your right.
When I rode the train on a recent weekday morning, only 67 people got on board. Amtrak officials say those numbers aren't surprising.
This train has been under a guillotine in Indiana for many years. And during this time, we've continuously told INDOT, as we've told the communities on the route and the advocates, there needs to be investment in this route for this route to be successful.
Officials from the Indiana Department of Transportation declined to do an interview for this story, but released a statement saying, despite improvements to on-time performance and upgrades to the travel experience, ridership growth has not materialized. As a result, the Hoosier State remains one of the most heavily subsidized passenger rail services currently operating, with about 75% of the cost of each ticket sold subsidized by the state and local governments. This financial model is not sustainable in the long term and doesn't represent the best value for taxpayers. The end of the line has many smaller communities along the route worried about their futures. Crawfordsville Mayor Todd Barton says having a train from his city to Chicago helps attract new companies to the area. He understands why the state pulled funding, but sees the decision as short-sighted.
We really have to think in terms of what's going to position us for, into the future.
He'd like to see Indiana follow the lead of other states and create a separate department for passenger rail travel, rather than including it in the Department of Transportation. He says that would position train travel as a priority for the state. Without that shift, Barton worries the Hoosier State line will be gone for good.
When a route disappears, it's very hard to get it back.
Amtrak officials say there's a lot of truth to that statement. The rail cars currently serving the Hoosier State line will be redeployed once it ends. And without the route in place, there's no guarantee that certain tracks will be available in the future. Amtrak only owns about 17 miles of rail line in Indiana, so it has to work with other railroads in order to operate between Indianapolis and Chicago. And that can be expensive.
Bringing the train back as it was is not anything we would suggest. In order for the train to come back and be the kind of success we've had elsewhere in the Amtrak Midwest network, it needs to be a better service. To be a better service, it needs to have investment in it.
That's what advocates for passenger rail would like to see too. They're encouraged by the state's investment in improving the South Shore commuter rail in northern Indiana and hope it signals a willingness to invest downstate.
What I really want to see is improvement here for central Indiana and for the south of Indiana as well. We've regularly spoke about what we call an inverted Y, which would be a daily reliable service between Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Louisville, Indianapolis, Chicago.
With already limited service between Indianapolis and Chicago getting scaled back to just one line, it's hard to imagine that kind of robust expansion anytime soon.
Now, there are also concerns about how the line ending could impact Amtrak's Beech Grove maintenance shop, which employs hundreds of people just outside of Indianapolis and services rail cars from across the country. Amtrak used the line to transport equipment for repair to Beech Grove, but won't be able to do so as frequently with the line ending. Amtrak says that could make Beech Grove less competitive for contracts, but Joe, it's unclear at this point how many jobs could be impacted.
Okay, thanks, Barbara.